My life with Mark was a quiet painting, a muted landscape of comfort and routine. We had been together for so long that the edges of our individual lives had blurred into one soft, indistinct shape. There was a gentle love, certainly a deep affection that had settled in like old furniture in a familiar room. But somewhere along the way, the vibrant colors of passion and excitement had faded, leaving behind only shades of gray. A slow, creeping dullness had begun to permeate every corner of our existence, turning what was once a joyful partnership into a predictable series of shared responsibilities and unspoken expectations. We were roommates more than lovers, partners in life, but strangers in spirit. The spark that ignited our connection years ago had dwindled to an almost imperceptible flicker, threatening to extinguish completely. I remember the first time I noticed the shift. It was a Tuesday evening like so many others. He was absorbed in his work on his laptop, and I was reading a book. The silence between us was not companionable. It was empty, a vast expanse that echoed with unsaid words and unspoken desires. I longed for a touch, a glance, a question about my day, anything to bridge that growing chasm. A simple hand reaching for mine across the sofa, a moment of shared laughter over a silly show, an inquiry into my thoughts or feelings. But he was oblivious, or perhaps he simply did not care. The distinction was a painful blur to me. I felt myself becoming invisible, a ghost in my own home, a background character in my own story, and that feeling of vanishing slowly eroded my sense of self, my worth, my very identity. It was a slow, insidious poison that seeped into my soul day after day, making me crave something, anything to feel real again, alive again, desired again. Then Leo entered my world. He was a colleague at a new project, a whirlwind of energy and charm. He saw me, he truly saw me, not just the woman who ironed Mark's shirts or remembered to pay the bills, but the woman with ideas, with dreams, with a laugh that could light up a room. He listened intently to my stories. He asked about my passions. He remembered small details I had shared weeks before. He made me feel intelligent and witty and beautiful. It was intoxicating, like breathing fresh air after years in a stale room. I felt alive again, vibrant and visible and terribly guilty. The contrast between his attention and Mark's indifference was stark and painful, a chasm I found myself drawn to cross. Our conversations started innocently enough. Lunch breaks, coffee after work, then lingered emails late into the night. There was an undeniable current between us, an electric hum that made my skin tingle and my heart race. I knew I was playing with fire, but the warmth of that flame was so much more comforting than the cold indifference I felt at home. I told myself it was just friendship, a harmless connection, a way to feel human again, a mere emotional dalliance. But deep down, I knew I was lying to myself and to Mark, and that knowledge was a heavy stone in my stomach, a constant reminder of my betrayal. Each shared glance, each prolonged touch, each secret smile was a step further down a path I knew I should not be on yet. I found myself unable to turn back, pulled by an irresistible force, a craving for validation and excitement. The first kiss was accidental and inevitable. It was after a late project meeting, the office deserted and the city lights twinkling outside the window. We were talking about a difficult client, our heads close together, sharing a moment of shared frustration. And then his hand was on my arm. A gentle squeeze, and his eyes met mine. And in that moment the world narrowed to just us, just his gaze and my longing. It felt right and terrifying, and utterly wrong all at once. His lips were soft, his touch tender, and for a fleeting moment I forgot everything else. I forgot Mark. I forgot my promises. I forgot my own moral compass. I was simply a woman, being desired, being held, being seen, being utterly consumed by a forbidden moment, a sensation I had yearned for without even realizing the depth of that yearning. After that, everything became a blur of stolen moments, hushed phone calls, hurried texts, and elaborate excuses. I became a master of deception, a weaver of intricate lies. The guilt was a constant companion, a shadow that followed me everywhere I went. It gnawed at me, made sleep elusive, and my days a kaleidoscope of anxiety and exhilaration. Each time I looked Mark in the eye, I felt a fresh wave of shame wash over me. He was kind, he was stable, he was everything a good partner should be, and I was tearing our world apart, piece by painful piece. The physical intimacy with Leo was electric, a forbidden thrill that made my heart pound and my conscience scream. Yet I kept going, driven by a desperate need for that feeling of being wanted, of being alive, of being someone special. I found myself craving those moments like an addict chasing their next fix. Knowing it was wrong but unable to stop, I started to compare them. Mark's quiet steadiness against Leo's vibrant passion, Mark's predictable routines against Leo's spontaneous adventures. It was an unfair comparison, I knew, because one was a life I had built over years with shared history, and the other was a fantasy built on stolen moments and forbidden desires. Yet the fantasy was so compelling, so seductive, that it drowned out the quiet voice of reason and loyalty. I felt myself drifting further and further away from the life I had known, from the person I thought I was, from the values I once held dear. I created an elaborate mental justification for my actions, telling myself that Mark had neglected me, that I deserved happiness, that this was simply a way to rediscover myself. It was all a lie, a flimsy facade to mask the uncomfortable truth of my own selfishness. The lie became my reality, my secret world, my escape. But it was also a prison. The constant fear of discovery, the need to remember every detail of my fabricated stories, the emotional toll of living a double life slowly began to wear me down. I was exhausted mentally and emotionally. I started to lash out at Mark for small things, for leaving his socks on the floor, for not noticing my new haircut, for anything that could be twisted into a justification for my actions, my own misdeeds. But it was never about him. It was always about me, about my own guilt projecting onto him. Each argument was a further wedge between us, a self-fulfilling prophecy of a deteriorating relationship, a way to push him away, so I could feel less guilty about my true betrayal. The discovery did not come with a dramatic confrontation or an angry accusation. Instead, it was a quiet unraveling. A message from Leo popped up on my phone while Mark was using it to check something for me. A simple, innocuous text about meeting later for coffee. But the timing, the context, everything screamed of a hidden life. Mark did not say a word. He simply handed me the phone, his face a mask of hurt and disbelief and betrayal. The silence that followed was deafening, more painful than any shout or scream. I wished for a scream. Anything but that profound, crushing silence that permeated the air, that seemed to press down on me, crushing my chest, making it impossible to breathe. I saw the light go out in his eyes the moment his world shattered, and I knew I was responsible. His eyes spoke volumes. A story of shattered trust and broken promises, and a future that had just crumbled before him. In that moment, my secret world imploded. The elaborate edifice of lies I had so carefully constructed collapsed into a pile of ash and regret. There was no anger, just an unbearable sadness, an understanding that transcended words. I tried to explain, to apologize, to beg for forgiveness. But the words caught in my throat, choked by shame and the realization of the immense damage I had caused. How could I explain that I was lost, that I felt invisible, that I sought comfort in another's arms when the person I truly loved was right in front of me? It sounded hollow, even to my own ears, a pitiful excuse for such a profound betrayal. The aftermath was a long, drawn-out agony. The quiet conversations filled with pain and questions I could not answer. The slow packing of my bags, the empty spaces left behind. The realization that I had destroyed not just a relationship, but a shared history, a comfortable life, a future that had once seemed so certain. I had chased a fleeting feeling, a momentary thrill, and in doing so, I had sacrificed something precious, something irreplaceable. The quiet goodbyes, the finality of watching his face as I walked out the door for the last time, etched themselves into my memory. A constant reminder of the day I broke us both. Looking back, I see the cracks that were always there, the unspoken needs, the growing distance, the lack of communication. But those cracks did not justify my actions. They were a symptom, not an excuse. I chose to seek comfort and excitement outside my relationship instead of addressing the issues within it. I chose deception over honesty. I chose selfish gratification over loyalty and respect. And I live with the consequences of those choices every single day. A part of me still longs for the comfort of that quiet painting with Mark, but I know it is a past I cannot reclaim. I burned that bridge and left a trail of ashes in my wake. The shame is still a heavy cloak I carry, the regret a constant echo in my mind. I learned a terrible lesson about the fragility of trust, about the profound impact of betrayal, about the destructive power of selfishness. I learned that the grass is not always greener on the other side. It is simply different, and often requires a different kind of tending and watering. And sometimes when you jump the fence, you realize you have left behind a garden that was beautiful in its own way, a garden you could have nurtured if you had only truly seen it and cherished it. I carry this understanding now, a burden and a guide, reminding me of the person I do not want to be again. My life now is one of solitude and reflection. There is no Leo, no Mark, only me and the quiet hum of my own thoughts. I understand now that happiness comes from within, not from external validation or fleeting pleasures. It comes from self-respect, from honesty, from integrity. And these are qualities I am still working to rebuild, one painstaking step at a time. The wound is deep, and the scar will always remain a reminder of the choices I made, and the person I became, and the love I irrevocably lost. The days are long. The nights are often restless, filled with replays of past moments, and what-ifs, and if-onlys. I grapple with the weight of my past actions, trying to find a path toward genuine self-acceptance. It is a difficult truth to swallow, but it is my truth. I wish I could go back to that Tuesday evening, to that moment of silence, and choose differently. I wish I had spoken up, had communicated my needs, had fought for my relationship, instead of running from it. But time moves only forward, and all I can do is carry the weight of my past and strive to be a better person, a more honest person, a more loving person. Perhaps someday I will be worthy of love again, but first I must forgive myself for the mistakes I made, and learn to live with the person I have become, and work towards a future where my actions align with my true values. This journey of redemption is long and arduous, but it is the only one I can take now, a testament to the person I hope to be, a person of integrity and true connection.